I've seen here. Alderman Burnett, I think, is around here somewhere. Thank you. Want to thank our engagement and our advisory councils, our task forces, our working groups, our delegate agencies, and the community organizations that have helped to build these roundtables this evening and to co-design them with us. So let's give a round of applause for that. Wonderful, thank you. And I want to thank you, the community, for coming out tonight to join us for our first evening of public engagement for our 2025 budget. Big round of applause for that one. There we go. Wonderful. So we're so happy to see you again and to engage with you about your thoughts on how we can make this city stronger. And we've got a lot of things to cover this evening. And we started thinking about this evening way back in January. Actually, we started thinking about this evening last year at this time. How we can make these better, how we can make them richer, how we could do this with our community and co-design this. But we really dug in starting in January to think about how this was going to look. And I'm going to go over that in a little bit later, how we landed on the topics that we're going to be discussing tonight. I hope you got those in the packets when you walked in. But first, let's hear it for our mayor, Brandon Johnson. That's right. He's going to come up here and discuss how these conversations impacted last year's budget and how they're going to be how they're going to be helpful this year. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah, for your leadership. And good evening to all of you all who have found your way to the best side of the city of Chicago, the West Side. Congratulations. Yes, I know you're from the South Side. That's why I'm saying welcome to the best side, the West Side. No. Well, listen, I know that all of you that are here this evening, regardless of which section of the city that you belong to, I know that all of you in this room are committed to working with me to build a better, stronger, and a much safer Chicago. And I'm also grateful that all of you have trusted my leadership over the first year and 3 months. It's been an incredible journey. And guess what? We're about to pass another progressive budget, my second one, which means we only have 22 more budgets to pass. But your feedback, your ideas, and even your criticism has been invaluable to building the city of Chicago's budget. We understand that you are experts of your own in your respective disciplines as well as your convictions. And know that I know that you know what our neighborhoods need. But with your expertise and your voices, I need your support to figure out how we can best allocate the funding for housing and homelessness support, community safety, neighborhood development, mental health care access and public health, our environment, and so much more. The people of Chicago are going to be with us every step of the way throughout our budget process. My administration is committed to practicing co-governance. We are building and expanding partnerships with communities and stakeholders all across our city to bridge the gap between government and people. My administration is doing things differently in Chicago, and that's why it feels different. And continuing to expand and innovate the ways in which we bring collaboration into our budgeting process, this will ultimately build our capacity to create the better, stronger, safer Chicago that we all know can be achieved. Now, last year, we demonstrated our commitment to gathering community input by expanding our budget engagement process, adding an event dedicated solely to youth and their voices, because I made it a commitment from the very beginning to transform this city. We have to do it through the lived experiences of our young people. Additionally, we started the process earlier in the year, allowing departments to hear from the public before submitting their budgets. In 2023, we heard you. We heard you loud and clear. Listening to your priorities, in my 2024 budget, we invested in, because of you, $100 million into community safety, $15 million into mental health, more than $25 million in climate initiatives, $250 million in homelessness support, and we were able to increase youth employment by 20% because of this process. Co-governance works when you have an administration that values the voices of the people. And this year, we leverage the expertise and perspectives of the city's engagement councils, advisory councils, and other community partners, businesses, and nonprofit stakeholders to truly bring together a co-designed budget engagement process in a way in which we do in the city of Chicago, which is making history. And finally, I'm sorry I've been up here so long, but you all excite me. But truthfully, your love for the people of Chicago and your neighbors is unmatched. Many of you all know that I'm the son of a pastor, the grandson of a pastor. And what I learned growing up is that through the words of Jesus Christ, he said that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And so we worked with community representatives, empowering the design of today's structure, these roundtable discussions, by expanding our collaborative approach with our residents. This is going to help us take the next steps in the right direction to reverse generations of disinvestment in our communities and secure a more equitable, brighter, safer city. And so in other words, as our treasure and our heart aligns, our heart is on the south side of Chicago. Our hearts are on the west side of Chicago. Our hearts are on the north side, the southeast, northwest, all over the city of Chicago in order to bring together a budget that truly reflects the values of our city. God bless you all. God bless the greatest city in the world, the city of Chicago.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for your leadership and your commitment to the city of Chicago and the guiding principles that brought us together today. One of the things that we heard from you, from the community, loud and clear last year, was that Chicago residents wanted more transparency on what goes into the budget and how it's built. So we created a 12-minute video that's been up on our budget engagement website for several months now. That's kind of a budget 101 primer. Raise your hand if you watched it. Anyone? Okay, maybe clap. How about we clap if we watched it? Yeah, that's better, that's better. All right, great. It was informative, I promise you. My coworkers even said, oh my God, I learned something. Very good stuff, but we're not gonna go through that tonight, okay? Because we have, right up here, somebody that's gonna do it even better, give us an in-person lesson. So we're gonna have our director Annette Guzman, come up and give us a presentation. So please welcome Director Guzman, please. Thank you. I forgot to move the PowerPoint along. There we go. Tell me when to move, or do you want to move yourself?
Good evening, everyone. I just have to say thank you. You guys are our first of a series of budget engagements this year, and for those of you who turned out tonight, you look fabulous. I see a couple of people who were here last year, and that to me actually warms my heart because it means that you're continually invested in this process. You're continually invested in keeping us accountable to the commitments that we make, and you keep showing up and giving your voice to this process, and that's so important. I want to thank a couple of additional people. I did see Alderman LaSpada in the audience. Thank you, sir, for joining us tonight. And we also have the president of Malcolm X with us as well. Thank you, sir, if you want to stand up. Thank you for allowing us to be in your beautiful space every single year. Thank you. It helps us show off one of our crown jewels of Chicago. And thank you for each of you for being here tonight. A couple of other people I want to shout out to. We have a number of commissioners in the audience tonight. We have senior leadership, deputy mayors, chief operating officer, our chief of staff with us tonight, because honestly, we are all committed to making sure our budget represents the people of Chicago and the needs of our communities. And so we want to hear from you tonight. As much as you invest in us, we want to invest in you. So with that said, when it comes to budget, I always say in order for us to truly, truly, truly provide our input, we also have to make sure that we inform ourselves about how the budget is developed, what's in the budget, and how we can move it forward to more align with our values. And so whenever you get me, you're gonna get like a 2-minute lesson on the budget. I promise to make it quick. So some of you have seen this before, but it's so important for us to recognize who's at the top of this org structure for the city of Chicago. It's the people of the city of Chicago. It's important that you recognize that we work for you. The services that we provide are for the people of Chicago, for the people who do business with the city of Chicago, the people who live here, the people who come and visit us, who we show how great, as our mayor says, the greatest freaking city in the world, right? So you're at the top, and that's why we have not only this series of budget engagements, but we listen to our advisory boards, our task forces, our committees to help us and guide us in the work that we do. Just underneath you are our elected officials, our mayor, our city council, our treasurer, and our city clerk. Underneath the mayor is the executive branch of the city, and those are all of our departments, as well as the Board of Elections. And that's important. All of these functions work for the city of Chicago. What's not in our budget? You'll hear us talk throughout this evening in our roundtables about the things that make up our budget, the things that we want to hear back from you. What you won't hear us talk about tonight are the budgets of our sister agencies. They're a vital piece of how we make Chicago work, how we provide services to our residents, to our communities. But in the fall, in the winter, when our city council is debating the budget that the mayor puts before them, they're not voting on the budgets of our sister agencies. However, our budget does include a number of allocations, grants, and other things that we do provide for our sister agencies because we are in partnership and because they provide us services in the same way that we provide them services. So there are aspects of our sister agencies in our budgets, whether it's through the TIF that we provide to a number of our sister agencies. In previous years, the city has bonded out to provide capital to some of our sister agencies, or the grants that we provide some of our sister agencies. But in the fall, what City Council votes on is the full budget of the city of Chicago, not our sister agencies. So I just think that's important for us to recognize. Why do we create a budget? We're required to by state law, as well as by city ordinance. Because of the size of our population, the amount of revenue that we bring in, either through state law or through our own local ordinances, every year we go through a deliberative process with our departments, with the mayor, and then finally with city council to craft and pass a budget by state law. We have to do that by, the mayor has to present his budget by November 15th of every year to city council, and a budget must be passed by the end of this year. Now, we love to not wait to the last minute, so the mayor actually presents his budget a lot earlier than November 15th to allow for a deliberative process in which to engage with city council about the final budget. Earlier in the year, by September 30th, we publish a forecast. This forecast is a 3-year look ahead to help us understand what the revenues are anticipated for the year in the coming 3 years, as well as what we anticipate our expenditures to grow by, given the natural things like inflation and other things that require our budget to grow by a certain percentage every year. That is our guiding light to help us understand how can we afford the budget that we provide every single year. So you can think of it as our starting point. All right, let's talk a little bit about the budget. So in 2024, the budget we passed was $16.6 billion, made up of a number of revenue and expenditure sources. On the revenue side, our largest fund is our corporate fund. And this is, again, another critical aspect for us to understand. The corporate fund is what supports the bulk of the city's operations, and it's our most flexible fund within our annual budget. All of the rest of the funds are what we call restricted funds. They can only be used for the purpose in which they were created. And so those cannot be used generally to support just normal operations of the city. But they are a vital way in which we are able to provide services to our residents and those that interact and do business with the city. So the corporate fund is $5.7 billion for FY24. Our second largest revenue source this year was our grant funds. Many of you have heard about a number of the grants that we put out every year, but during the pandemic, you probably heard of a few more, including CARES Act, the American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. All of those were grants that we received during the pandemic to help us first get through the pandemic, because we were all, if you can cast your minds back to what it was like in 2020 and 2021, we were just trying to get through the pandemic. But the government made provision coming out of the pandemic for us to recover, because we were impacted mightily, and many of our communities that had long suffered disinvestment were impacted even more. And so you saw our budget grow exponentially during the pandemic with the federal aid and the state aid that came in the midst of the pandemic. We anticipate having those funds for the next few years, but there will be a shift in the city's budget as those federal funds start to expire in 2026 and beyond. After that, our enterprise funds are the next largest, and those are our water and sewer fund and our 2 airport funds for O'Hare and Midway. Looking just at the corporate fund, on the revenue side, you can see the makeup of what goes into our corporate fund. It's largely made up of local non-tax revenue as well as local tax revenue. This is a mixture of funds that we receive from the state, where they collect our revenue on our behalf, as well as funds that we collect through our own home rule authority, so the taxes and the fines, fees, and other types of revenue that we collect. On top of that, we do get intergovernmental revenue from both the federal government as well as the state for services that we provide, as well as a portion of our funds that we might use from surpluses from prior years to help support the succeeding year budget. Turning to expenditures, looking at the $16.6 billion budget on the left, you can see that, again, the bulk of our expenditures sit within our corporate fund, followed by our grant funds, followed by our enterprise funds. This shows how we balance our budget. That's another thing I didn't mention, is that every year we must pass a balanced budget. And so you can see that our expenditures and our revenues equal each other, and that's intentional. Looking just at the corporate fund expenditures, our largest expenditures sit within our public safety infrastructure, fire, police, our emergency management, and the agencies that oversee our public safety offices. Second is our general financing requirements. I should say the biggest costs within most municipal budgets are the people that support the operations. Those people that we call our employees also have benefits and other things that we pay for as part of their compensation. Since our benefits are enterprise-wide, they sit within our general financing requirements, along with a couple of other enterprise-wide costs. So those two make up the bulk of our expenditures. You'll see that infrastructure is a smaller portion of our corporate fund, and that's largely because infrastructure is paid for through our enterprise funds, as well as very, very, very large grants that we get from the state as well as the federal government. So let's talk a little bit about the 24 budget and the strategic investments that the mayor alluded to earlier. Going through this really, really quickly, again, we heard from you during last year's budget engagement, so we wanted to come back to you and tell you how we acted upon what we heard. So the first one that we talked about and we heard a lot about from you is addressing the root cause of health issues through extensive public health investments. And this is largely through our expansion of mental health services. We all know that the pandemic caused a lot of needs. One of them that was highlighted and brought to bear were the ongoing mental health needs that a lot of our communities experience. And so we made a commitment to expand that within our communities. And this includes things like increasing the number of community health workers that we have that do outreach within our communities, expanding our alternate response team. So this is an alternative to 911. And increasing the number of mental health clinics. The mayor, earlier this year, with the Commissioner of Department of Public Health, announced the reopening of 3 clinics within communities throughout the city of Chicago, with plans to continually evaluate the expansion of additional mental health clinics within our communities. The mayor talked about the very large investment in youth employment. That was a big focus of a lot of the feedback that we got last year. Within our budget was $66 million, and an increase on top of that for FY24 was an $11 million investment to help increase the number of student jobs by 4,000, as well as adding youth coordinators within our youth service corps. Another big thing that we did was expand the number of internship opportunities within City of Chicago departments. We want to create and expand our pipeline of individuals interested in coming to work permanently at the city, or at least full-time at the city. And our student internship program is a great way for students to learn about what it is that we do on a day-to-day basis and how this is both a fulfilling career as well as a good opportunity to learn city and public service. One big thing that we did this year in the 24 budget was reestablishing the Department of Environment through an increased investment, really focusing on making sure that we're making equitable investments in environment, as well as putting a focus back on environmental issues as a focus for the city. In addition, the Department of Water Management received additional funding, as we know that we have a mandate to replace all of our lead service lines by a specific date. I believe it's 2050. And to reach that mandate, we needed to increase our investment to help those who might not be able to replace their private side lines with city investments. So that's just a few of the things that we were able to do with the 24 budget and that we're looking to expand upon in our 25 budget as we continue to align to our values and the values that the mayor has put forth as priorities. This is the timeline in which we develop our budget every year, and we're in the midst of it right now. Between the months of July and August, this is when we continue to get feedback. Departments are starting to put together their budget requests, and so it's really important, and it's very fortunate that you have a number of commissioners with you here today to hear directly from you. So as they're crafting their budgets, they have you and your voices in their heads. Finally, we're really big on transparency. We want to make sure that you keep us accountable for the commitments that we've made in the mayor's budget. And we do that through a number of publications that we invite you all at any time, if you're just interested, to go on the budget website and look. You can learn not only about what we eventually pass through City Council, but also we report on a monthly and a quarterly basis on our financial standing, whether it's where we are on our revenue to date or where we are throughout the quarters of the year when it comes to our expenditures and our revenue. So again, thank you for being here tonight. I look forward to hearing from each of you in our roundtables and looking to see what it is that will make it into the 25 budget. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Guzman. We appreciate the lesson, and we will be working each year to strengthen our budgeting muscles, right? We learn something new each year. I didn't know half of this stuff last year, and I got up and talked about it. So each year we're getting better. So let's give a round of applause for that. Yes. So Let's talk about how we got here tonight, okay? Last year, we said we wanted to start earlier and we wanted to start often. And so that's what we did. This year, we designed a comprehensive 3-phase approach to public engagement for our city's fiscal year 2025 budget. And this was led by the Office of Budget Management, by the Mayor's Office of Community Engagement. That's me. I don't think I said my name. I'm Sarah Mathers, First Deputy of Community Engagement. Wow, I just got us started, didn't I? And then also in collaboration, and I really need to give a shout out to them because they really worked very, very hard. That is the Great Cities Institute at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Big round of applause. That's right. Yeah, let's scream for them too. Exciting. We also co-designed this with community stakeholders. I'm going to go into that in just a little bit, but we did this under a framework that was based on participation, equity, education, transparency, and accountability. You can grade us on it later. Tell us how we're doing on it, all right? We're trying something new. We started this process back in March, where we started designing it, right? We started talking about it. We started thinking through what it was going to look like. And then in April through May, we pulled together a large list of departments. We asked our city departments, we said, what do you need more community engagement around? What is it that you want to hear about so that you can make better budget decisions this year? So they gave us a whole long list of programs. And what we did is we went to our community stakeholders, our advisory councils, our engagement councils, our task forces, our working groups, and we said, take this big old long survey. It's really wonky. It's going to take you 25 minutes. Help us out. Tell us what's important in your community and show us what you want to talk about also. So that was what we called phase 1. Give me a clap or raise your hands if you took that survey in the beginning. All right, good. Wonderful. We're glad to hear it. That's great. Excellent. So after we took that survey, our friends at the Great Cities Institute, they went and they gave us a report, which you can find on our website. You can go and check it out. It's great light reading, really interesting stuff that talked about what phase 1 looked like and the results of everything. We pulled together a smaller group of stakeholders so they could help us design this tonight. What we asked them, what are the topics that we want to talk about? Do we want to have focused conversations or open conversations? Overwhelmingly, people said, we want to have conversations that are focused, that we can walk away from this saying that we've talked about a program, a project, an initiative, and that we are about to impact it. So that's what we came here to do tonight. We are right now in the phase 3 roundtables. You are here right now. So give yourselves a round of applause for showing up tonight. And another quick round of applause for those stakeholders and our community groups that took that long survey. I've seen quite a few of you here tonight. Wonderful. So this was the list that we worked together to build, starting with our city departments, going through a couple phases. So this is what we hope to talk about this evening. Hopefully you all received the handout when you walked in. We've got a couple other ways for you to learn about this evening also. But we're going to talk about 5 different topic areas, and we've got different programs, initiatives, pilots, or procedures that we want to talk about specifically in each one of those. So we're really hoping to focus our conversations towards these initiatives so that we can show the impact of your words on our budget in the end. That's what we're hoping to do here tonight. Of course, we know what happens when we bring the community together. When you want to talk about something, you're going to talk about something. And we're going to allow that also. But what we want to do is try to focus in on these conversations. Well, we'll see how it goes. I know, we're a little iffy on it, a little tepid in the audience. Let's give it a round of applause just for trying it out. Okay? There we go. Big long list of things right here. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna break from here and we're gonna go into the great room over there. We're gonna have all of those conversations happening in there. We're gonna do 3 sessions of 30 minutes, okay? You can sit there and you can hang out all night at the same, at one table, or you can go from table to table to table, right? We're gonna have our 30-minute session. We'll have timer clocks up there. We'll let you know when it's time to transition. However, if you're having an excellent conversation, you are welcome to stay in that conversation and keep it going. We are gonna try to, again, focus in on those initiatives and initiatives that are listed out before, all right? So we don't interrupt conversations, we're gonna have little areas where you can go and learn about, get a quick update on what's happening at that table. So you can go and watch a short video, or there can be somebody there to explain a little bit about those handouts that you're having, okay? So you're gonna be able to walk up to these tables and jump right into a conversation. We're not gonna reset, we're not gonna give you another overview, all right? We're just gonna keep having conversations. What we're hoping is that we're gonna hear from you tonight, and our city departments are gonna use this as a listening session to hear what you have to say about your communities and what's important to them. All right, so that's our goals for this evening. Now, after that's over, we're gonna say goodbye. You guys can come back to our other ones. We're doing it on the north side, we're doing it on the south side. We're doing it with the youth, but only youth, 14 to 24 are gonna be allowed to come to that. If you're an adult coming to it, we're gonna put you behind the stage. But we're gonna have all of these conversations happen, and then we're gonna compile all that information and get it back out to you. All right, so be on the lookout for it. But tonight, we're here to talk, we're here to engage, so let's hit that great room, go forth and engage. Thank you, everyone.